Hey, everybody. Welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. I'm Kristi Brower, here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey, Katie.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going.
You're surviving this summer?
Yeah.
Doing your
I don't
best?
want to be the guy who bitches about the cold and then bitches about the heat, but I'm that guy. So it's too hot and I hate it. There
Yeah,
you go.
okay. Let's just be honest here, friends. It is true. It is true.
We know you're feeling the same.
We do. Oh, you have to be. If you're in the US right now, everyone is pissed. We're just pissed. That's all it is.
Yeah.
However, this is a Patreon special. So, this
Yes.
is a bonus episode we do for you, our dear patrons who we love and appreciate. And a while back, we've done some, we've called them roulette, we've called them battles. We got in trouble with YouTube for saying roulette. But these are
Apparently
sort of
that's what
a dangerous
suggesting
activity.
dangerous activity or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently, we can't use that name.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we did is we decided to do a Canadian true crime battle. This was requested by one of you, so thank you for that. And what that
And many of
means,
you have requested more Canadian cases.
yes,
So we're
and
trying.
we are.
Yeah.
There's a lot to choose from. That's all I'm going to say. Sadly, very sadly. But what we're going to do is we're going to do rapid fire. Katie's going to present me 3 cases. I'm going to read them very quickly. And then I'm going to present her 3 cases. And these are all Canadian cases, famous, unsolved Canadian cases.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and obviously,
Katie,
these will be the highlights or lowlights, as it were, in these cases.
yeah,
There's certainly lots more to go. I mean, they're not full investigations. These are just the basics so that we can get a hit and give a psychic read to them. So
exactly. So please don't flame us if we get something wrong. We're just trying to get the basics out there. That's all it is.
yeah.
And if we get a wrong picture, because I got to admit, these pictures have been tough to find. I'm not using very many because I don't even know if they're the right ones. So we're doing our best. But Katie,
Yes.
I am ready for you. Ready,
Okay.
aim, fire.
I am going to start with the case of Lynn Harper. This is a really famous Canadian case. This happened in Clinton, Ontario in 1959. Lynn was 12 and she disappeared near a Canadian Air Force base. And 2 days after she disappeared, her body was found on a nearby farm. And there was a suspect because she had been with this boy named Stephen Truscott. He was 2 years older, so he was 14. And he was the last one to be seen with her.
Okay.
And Truscott was charged with murder, tried as an adult at 14, found guilty, and sentenced to death.
Holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
Canada, you're brutal.
Right. Shortly after the sentence, they actually changed the sentence to prison for life. He was in prison for 10 years, and then there was a new investigation that proved his innocence. And he was released.
So we have 2 victims here now. Wow.
Very much, yeah. And it was a case that really split people down the middle because some people really believe that he really did do it. A lot of people think that he did not do it and that the way the authorities handled it was all wrong. Sure. But it was a huge case for Canadian, law enforcement and in the way they conduct crimes. So since then, they have had no new official suspects. There's a retired police officer that's worked really hard on this case that is still working really hard on this case that really believes that she was murdered by a serial killer. He believes that serial killer is known by the police and that they just haven't put 2 and 2 together. But this happened in 1959. It's very possible that person is now dead. And it's unlikely that they'll ever actually have a suspect. But at least poor Stephen was able to get at least some semblance of his life back.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, trying a 14-year-old as an adult and sentencing them to death. Wow.
Yeah, wow.
And I thought the U.S. justice system was brutal.
Yeah, that's really brutal. I bet it's
But
not the
that was in
same thing.
1959 too, and there's been a lot of adjustments since then.
Yeah.
But that's what I have for you. So, based on all of that knowledge, what do you think?
Definitely serial killer. Serial killer related to that Air Force base. There's a connection there, that they worked on that base or they were stationed there. I kind of don't think they were stationed. I think that they worked there, but that gave them a lot of opportunity in that community. I do feel though that there are many other deaths that can be attributed to this person. They just were never caught, and yes, they are dead. But
Mhm.
no, that little boy did not kill her.
No.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yikes.
All righty. This
That
is
serial
the
killer, though, sorry, I want to
no,
say
go
one
ahead.
more thing. They left that Air Force base not long after her death and moved to another part of Canada, which I cannot say because Canada is massive. And I don't know the names, but moved somewhere else, moved on, um,
Mhm.
out of fear of being caught. But I do feel that they worked in some kind of like janitorial or a cafeteria, something like that that was um sort of like people, they were just sort of invisible, like they were just sort of working in the background and people didn't pay any attention to them.
Mhm.
And that's how this man got away with the things that he did, because he was like that everywhere that he went. He was just the guy sweeping up, that kind of thing.
That he, I'm assuming, committed more crimes. Was this his
Yes.
first crime, do you believe, or no?
No, I think it was actually his second. um his first, he had to run quickly because he didn't do a very good job of keeping the evidence away from him. He did better with this one, obviously. Somebody else got blamed. But I do
Mhm.
feel like it was his second crime. And then he moved on to another place and continued to kill. I feel like he killed for a long time. What I keep hearing is 20 years, which is
Okay.
unreal.
Wow. Okay. The second case is the Babes in the Woods case. Uh, you remember when we were kids, there was that Babes in the Woods song? It's
Yeah.
kind of a lullaby, but it was actually really horrifying.
Maybe.
Well, here you go.
Is it based on this story?
I don't know,
Oh,
but when you hear the story, you'll wonder.
yikes.
The victims of these murders are unidentified. They were discovered in 1953 at a place called Stanley Park.
Okay.
Investigators think it was 6 years from the time they were actually murdered, just based on the condition of the bodies, the
And how
skeletons.
many bodies is it?
Two,
Two.
two, yeah. They have managed to DNA test 45 years after they were found and identify the two bodies, the two victims, as brothers.
Okay.
All they know is that they were between the ages of 7 and 10. They were both wearing aviation helmets, and they tried to track down the mother of who they thought might be the victims based on DNA, but they couldn't guarantee that she was actually who they were looking for, and the case went completely cold. They don't know who these boys were. They don't know how they died, and they don't know that. That's all they know. Yeah.
Wow. I really keep feeling very strongly that they were orphans, that they were in some kind of an orphanage or facility of some sort. Um, I'm not 100% sure that they died at the same time, but they were left in the same place. But I do feel that when the younger one died, maybe a year before the older one, something like that.
Hmm.
I do feel that they died from abuse and neglect. It feels like illness to me for both of them, that they were ill and not properly cared for, and then their bodies were dumped. And the only nice thing they did for them was to dump them together. I think the aviation helmets were meant to throw whoever found these bodies off, to indicate that they might have been, connected to an Air Force base or, parents at an Air Force base or something like that. I don't feel like that was real. I feel like that was staged.
Okay.
So,
wow. How sad.
yeah, yikes. Very sad.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the last case I have for you are the Hemlock Valley murders.
Mm.
So these are the murders of Tammy Pipe, Tracy Olahide, and Victoria Yonker.
Okay.
So these women were murdered in East Vancouver in 1995.
Okay.
They were all sex workers in the same area of Vancouver. They were all murdered the same way and left in the same area. So the police thought that they were looking for a serial killer named Ronald Richard McCauley.
Okay.
They were certain it was him. He had a history of assaulting and attacking prostitutes. That was his jam.
Mm-hmm.
And he had previously served time for rape and attempted murder.
Mm-hmm.
And he was indefinitely jailed, but they couldn't prove it was him.
Uh-huh.
And finally, in 2001, they were able to test the DNA samples. And guess what? They didn't match Ronald McCauley. It wasn't him. And since then, they've had 0 other suspects. They have no idea who killed these women.
And tell me the timeline again.
1995, all of them.
1995. Okay. Do you know, I really feel like they were victims of Robert Pickton. Remember Robert Pickton, the pig farm guy?
Yeah.
He was also killing sex workers in Vancouver in that time frame. I feel like they were his victims.
Wow.
I had to look up his name because I couldn't remember it. We'd done this case before.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's what I kept getting is I feel like that they were some of Robert Pickton's victims before he started, doing the gross pig farm thing to get rid of the bodies. Yeah.
Well, I mean, authorities believed that he had killed, an indefinite amount of women. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he did target sex workers. So that would make sense.
And he did target sex workers in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, and
as soon as you started talking, I'm like, oh, we've talked about this guy. I know who this is. Yeah.
Well, hopefully at some point they pick it back up with DNA and can link it back to Pickton.
Yeah. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. I don't know.
Again, sex workers' deaths are frequently not really investigated well. And also the backlog of cases in these DNA, attempts are staggering. And the backlog of cases in the Vancouver area is staggering. So
well, it is. It is that East Vancouver area, especially like in the 90s, was a really rough area. And there was a lot of people murdered out of that area. Just a lot of people missing out of that area that have never been identified.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's so weird. Instantly, I'm like, oh my God, I know who this is.
Yep.
Did have to look up his name. I will admit that because I couldn't remember his name. I knew he was the pig farm guy, but that was it.
We've done a lot of cases. I frequently go, that one guy that did the, without knowing their name, because there's.
Well, we're over 200 cases now. And so it does get a little confusing. Like, oh crap, I know we've talked about this person, but what was their name? Yeah.
Yikes. All right. Well, thank you. Those were
the
3 cases I had for you.
Okay. Well, are you ready? Tell me to, ready, aim, fire, and then
I'm ready. Locked and loaded.
Okay.
We're not supposed to say that. Okay.
We're on Patreon, so we can say whatever we want. This is an unlisted video, so they don't care. Okay, so first I have Barbara Jean McLean and Melissa Rowerek. This was in Calgary, Alberta. Let's see, February 25th, 1977. By the way, I'm not sharing any pictures on this case because what I'm finding is very confusing. And so I don't want to share the wrong pictures. So I'm just not going to share any.
Okay, 1977.
So, 1977. This was February. Barbara Jean was last seen after she had an argument with her boyfriend at a bar called the Highlander. There were some witnesses that said that her boyfriend drove off at 2:30 in the morning and left her alone, and that she was going to hitchhike to a different party, but she never showed up. Her body was found very quickly the very next day. They immediately, authorities immediately connected her death to Melissa Roerich, who had been murdered in 1976 in September. She was last seen leaving the YMCA, and she was also planning to hitchhike to another city.
Oh boy.
So the only, I know, hitchhiking women, please just don't do it. Just it's not worth it. The only suspect was Gary, and this is such a weird spelling. Mickerstalker, I guess is how you say it.
Okay.
He was a known sex offender, and he committed suicide after he found out that the police were looking at him for another girl named Tina McPhee. And that's pretty much where that case ended. Like, they think it was him. He killed himself. What do you think?
I'm going to confirm it was him. I believe that he actually committed 6.
Okay.
6 rapes and murders in the area. Some of them they had not implicated him in because they hadn't found the bodies. But
Gotcha.
they were all hitchhiking women. Yep. All of them.
Yikes.
I feel like they ranged in age from somewhere around 13 all the way up into mid-20s.
Okay.
But yeah, it was him. And I feel like he was really mentally ill and was really kind of had a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of personality, you know, that when he would get in that state and he would commit a crime like this, then I feel like he would punish himself greatly. But again.
Yeah.
And I feel like when he knew that the police were closing in, he figured that this was it for him and that he really had no other choice but to exit.
Wow.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because, again, I feel like he did this 6 times and that there are more murders out there in that area that, or not murders necessarily, but disappearances, because I don't think all of the bodies were recovered. And so it wasn't necessarily, linked back to him later on, like these ones were. I think the police have their suspicions in some of those missing persons cases back then, but they don't know for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Next, I have the serial killer of Calgary. So this is Calgary, Alberta. So it is believed that there was a serial killer on the loose during the 90s. During the 90s and kind of the early 2000s, there were murders of numerous sex workers. That started with Jennifer Jans, who was found in August of 91. 4 other victims have been found between the years of 91 and 93, all being left in shallow graves around Calgary. So after 93, those killings stopped. So he either moved on or he died. But some people think that he went to Edmonton, Canada, because around 97 to the 2000s, there were 12 more murders in Edmonton, and they had some connections to those Calgary murders. They also were sex workers. And so it's believed that the murders in Edmonton and the murders in Calgary were committed by the same man, but they all stopped in the early 2000s.
Yeah, well, they didn't stop, but they stopped in Canada. I feel like he moved on to the US at that point.
Okay.
I feel like he ended up in the South, like in Georgia, or right in that area, and that he had one more run in one of those areas. I do not think he's living any longer. I do not think that he ever got caught. I feel like he eventually, I feel like he died from like illness. It wasn't that the police got him, and it wasn't that he was like in a violent crime. I feel like he actually got like cancer or something like that and died. But Yeah. So there were 3 targeted areas, but I'm really feeling like this was somewhere in Georgia that he picked up in a big city there and just kept it up. I don't think he killed as many people as he did in Edmonton.
Hmm.
That seemed to be his biggest hotspot.
Yeah.
I do think it started in Calgary, however.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
then then Georgia, and that's where it ended. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think there's nothing better than a dead serial killer.
Yeah.
Is that a terrible thing to say? It's true
Yeah.
though. Like at least he's gone, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Last one. This is Carrie Ann Brown. This is Thompson, Manitoba. So this is one of like the most infamous murders in Manitoba. Carrie Ann was 15. She went to a party with her friend. This was on October 16th of 1986. That's where she was last seen.
Okay.
She apparently was waiting outside for her friend who was grabbing something inside the house before they were to leave. When her friend returned, Carrie was nowhere to be found. Since the DNA tests point in the directions of 2 people, there were 2 people they think that were involved in her disappearance, but there have never been any arrests made, and there's never been anyone held accountable, and she's still missing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I believe it's teenagers that did this.
Okay.
I feel like this was 2 boys who I think were I really hate this phrase, but it's what's coming up. We're trying to have a little fun with her,
Oh, gross.
and things got really, really out of hand. I don't think that they like took her with the intent of murdering her,
Mhm.
but I do think they took her with the intent of raping her.
Mhm.
But they things got out of hand because she fought back. I feel like she fought back really hard and made
Right.
pretty big threats, and was defending herself and defending her life.
Right.
I feel like that's how this resulted in her death, is that they had a physical skirmish with her in which she was killed. I I don't feel like they did it again. I feel like this scared the shit out of both of them and
Okay.
created an incredible amount of trauma in both of them. I
Mhm.
feel like they both, as soon as they were old enough, moved away from the area. Pretty much just didn't talk to each other again, didn't see each other again, didn't, just got the hell out and tried to move on with their lives. I feel like with both of these men, if they were to ever find them, they would have their families would say something changed in him when he was around 17, and
Mhm.
just something went wrong, something changed, and he just got really distant, and pretty soon he was gone. And I feel like both families would be able to reflect back and go, yeah, that's something really shifted. And
Wow.
anyway, I don't suspect that this will be solved, because I don't feel like these two ever reoffended. And so
Mhm.
I suspect that there's probably no DNA to go on because of that, and that yeah, this will be an unsolved one. I hope not. I hope not. I hope that they do finally hold them to account. I will say though, at least, that I don't think that they've ever reoffended.
Well, that's good. It's something.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. So, Canadian friends, we may take some of these cases deeper because there's some pretty interesting stuff here.
Yeah.
But we did want to give you a quick rapid fire roulette
Yeah.
show. I don't know what to call it. But we just want to say thank you for supporting us
Yeah.
and making it possible for us to continue doing the work that we do. You really do help us by being a patron. That keeps us going, and we feel like you're our biggest fans, and we really appreciate that because that makes us your biggest fan as well.
Absolutely. Yes. As
Yeah.
always, our most heartfelt thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know it. We are True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Thanks for being here.
Take care.